All right, today we're tackling a story that's been making some serious waves. A report about a brand new AI model out of China that seemed to pop up overnight and challenge the biggest names in the game. Let's break down exactly what happened.
And really, this slide sums up the entire conflict perfectly. On one side, you have the establishment. We're talking years of work, billions of dollars, huge server farms. And on the other side, a completely different story. A single file gets uploaded, and the cost is compared to buying a nice apartment. It's a classic David versus Goliath setup. So let's jump in. The whole thing kicks off in January 2025. There's no big fanfare, no massive press tour, just the quiet release of a new AI model from a company that basically nobody saw coming. Okay, so at the center of all this is the model itself, DeepSeek V3. And a few things about it just jump right out at you. First, it's massive, 671 billion parameters. Second, it's open source, which means anyone can get their hands on it. And maybe most surprising of all, it didn't come from a Silicon Valley giant, but a small startup in Hangzhou. All right, but here's where things get really wild. The claim that's at the heart of this whole story is this incredible disconnect between how much it costs to make and how well it supposedly performs. Get this, $5.8 million. That's the number that got everyone talking. The report claims that's the entire cost to train this massive, powerful model. Now, to be clear, in the world of AI, that's practically nothing. We're used to hearing about costs that run into the hundreds of millions, sometimes more. And when you see it laid out like this, it's just wow. This chart puts that claim into sharp perspective. You have GPT-4's training cost estimated at over $100 million. And then you have DeepSeek way down there at under $6 million. We're talking more than 15 times cheaper, according to these numbers. But here's the kicker. It's not just that it was cheap. The whole point is that this tiny budget didn't result in a weaker model. In fact, according to the source, DeepSeek V3 didn't just compete. It shot straight to the #1 spot on public leaderboards, supposedly leaving its much, much more expensive rivals in the dust. Okay, so leaderboards are great and all, but they don't always tell the full story, right? So the report dives into some pretty dramatic real-world tests to see what this model could actually do. First up, they threw an absolute beast of a coding challenge at it. I mean, look at this prompt. This isn't just asking for a snippet of code. This is a full-blown, professional-level project that requires planning, logic, and execution all in one go. And the result? It's just staggering. DeepSeek allegedly nailed it, spit out the perfect working code in just 11 seconds. The report then claims that competitors like GPT-4o took almost 5 times longer, or just failed the task completely. Okay, so it can code, but can it, have some personality? To find out, they gave it this creative test. And this is a great way to check for nuance, for cultural understanding, for humor, all the stuff that's usually really hard for AI. And apparently, it killed it. The source described the result as next level, suggesting that its creative and contextual smarts were just as powerful as its technical skills. Again, supposedly putting it ahead of the competition. So, you can imagine, a release like this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It sent ripples, or maybe even shockwaves, across the entire tech industry. Let's look at how the world reportedly reacted. First, let's talk money. The economic implications here are huge. The report mentions a technique it calls mixture of experts on steroids and says the model was trained on older, less sought-after chips. The result? It was supposedly 20 to 50 times cheaper for developers to actually use. For any startup out there spending a fortune on API calls, that's a total game changer. Meanwhile, in China, the reaction was reportedly pure celebration. You had social media posts popping up saying things like, "America spent $100 billion, we spent pocket money and won." It was framed as this massive strategic victory and a moment of incredible national pride, almost like a moon landing for their tech scene. And on the other side of the world, in Silicon Valley, the report paints a picture of, well, silent panic. It takes a pretty standard corporate tweet from OpenAI's CEO and interprets it as a sign of worry. It also highlights that one of their top researchers was seen studying DeepSeek's code late into the night, framing these as clues that, behind the scenes, the industry leaders were seriously concerned. Okay, so with all that context, where do we go from here? The source actually lays out 3 possible scenarios for the future of the entire AI race. So you've got a few ways this could play out.
First, the geopolitical angle. The US hits back with trade restrictions, but it doesn't stop China. They just go dark and keep innovating. Second, the market just flips. Developers everywhere switch to the cheaper, better option, and revenue for the big players dries up. And third, they could just put this power right into everyone's pocket with a free mobile version.
And the report argues that scenario number 2 isn't just a what if. It's already starting to happen. And they point to this crazy number to prove it. A 4,000% spike in downloads from developers in India alone, just in the first 48 hours. That's a huge signal that the market is paying attention.
Which brings us right back to the big provocative question at the heart of this whole thing. If a small team with a tiny budget can really pull this off, has the entire AI race just been completely reset? What does that mean for everyone else in the game? It seems the rules might have just changed.